He's a Hallmark hunk with countless titles under his belt. She's a relative newbie who's showing a lot of promise. Together they make the perfect pairing. Or do they? Let's discuss right now. Hi, it's B and welcome to my channel. It's mid-January. We are reviewing New Year, New Movie movies. Today we're recapping The Perfect Pairing. And as always, I'm gonna be not only covering what was in it, we're gonna talk about the romance, we're gonna talk about the scenes that made us cringe or moan, we're gonna rate it, and we're gonna rank it up against Where Your Heart Belongs. I couldn't help but show you my fabulous neighborhood where it is snowing right now. It's the perfect setting for reviewing The Perfect Pairing. Nazneen Contractor plays CJ Osborne. She's a food and wine critic who's known for being kind of harsh. There was one review specifically where she basically ruined this place called Hallmark Winery. She also has a boyfriend named Kevin, and the two of them aren't doing very well. She's hoping that going up to wine country in upstate New York for a special event might be the thing that she and her boyfriend need for a little romance, but he seems really reluctant to go. Through a series of mishaps, she actually winds up at Hallmark Winery, which is where we meet the dashing Brennan Elliott, who plays Michael Hallmark. When I first saw him, he looked a little scruffy, and I was a little disappointed, but then I realized very quickly that he was able to rock this look, and he was still dashingly handsome. Hallmark Winery has been reeling since the bad review of CJ Osborne. Michael's hoping that the ice wine that he's going to make is going to take them out of the doldrums. Unfortunately, Michael's dad isn't really supportive, but he's really passionate about it, as we see in one of the first scenes where he's measuring the grapes with the mouthpiece of a clarinet. That could be your first problem, Michael. Next time, use the whole clarinet. CJ actually winds up at the Hallmark Winery and realizes quickly that she should not be there because this is the winery that she gave that terrible review to. As she tries to skitter away, she slips on the ice, hits her head, and she's got amnesia. Thankfully, the Hallmarks take her in, and through a series of sweet events, she becomes close with Michael's daughter, Brittany, who is adorable in this movie, and she starts to fall for Michael. She really starts to feel invested in the winery and wants to make sure it's thriving. A chance encounter at a shop with one of CJ's former co-workers makes CJ remember everything, and she decides to keep her awakening a secret. She doesn't want Michael to know because her main focus is fixing the mistake she made when she gave the Hallmark Winery that bad review. Unfortunately, her boyfriend, the awful Kevin, comes and unmasks her right to Michael. It is quite the scene. Michael feels hurt and a little betrayed, so he has to kind of go off and lick his wounds, basically. CJ throws a special party at the winery to set things right and really feature the ice wine, and she makes sure that one of the major food and wine critics is there to give a fabulous review. It looks like things are looking up in the end, and they already have enough orders for the rest of the year, which is pretty good considering it's January. Now that she doesn't have amnesia, now that CJ doesn't have amnesia, she's broken things off with Kevin. Michael feels like he understands CJ's heart, and certainly CJ knows his heart. They don't have any obstacles in their way, so they confess their love for one another, and they end with a kiss, and it is fabulous. So did this movie meet our winter wishes? Absolutely. I loved the scenes of the winery in the snow. Before my husband and I had children, we used to take a long trek out to the Shenandoah Valley for fun wine on Valentine's Day, which was always a good time. I love a good winery in the winter. It's so beautiful. The nighttime snow fight they have when they're harvesting the grapes, I thought that was so cool. I love the idea of driving in the snow with the convertible top down. I don't have a convertible, but if I did, that would be the #1 thing on my list to do. That sounds so fun. The special VIP room they have for the ice wine tasting looked so cool and cold and cozy all at the same time. I would love to do that. It just looked so fun. I also think anybody who's been missing Winterfest is probably thrilled with this movie because it felt like a Winterfest movie. So let's talk about the rom and the rom-com, the romance. He and Nazneen Contractor, let's just go ahead and say it. I think they were the perfect pairing. I thought they had great chemistry together. I love some of the early scenes when they're just sort of looking at each other. I couldn't believe twice we experienced Kiss Interrupted, and it was because one of them would stop and say, you know what, it's not right because you don't know who you are, CJ. or joy, I guess she was at the time. And I think that's admirable. There's also a scene where they're both alluding to their own feelings. That was really kind of cool and very romantic. And of course, the very end where they get back together and they kiss for the first time finally. It was long in the making and I thought it was wonderful. So let's talk about the COM and the rom-com. I like to pretend that COM stands for cringe or moan. The whole thing leading up to her ending up at the Hollingbrook Winery, even though it seemed super far-fetched, I could see something like that happening to me. So not so bad. Also, it's funny that they talked so much about the fact that the reason that the wine review was so terrible was because the corks were tainted on their Merlot. Here's what's funny about that though. When she is at the bed and breakfast and she tries some of the Merlot with her boyfriend, she asks to see the bottle and they hand it to her, and correct me if I'm wrong, I looked a couple times and I tried really hard to see. I believe that the bottle has a screw top. There's no cork. There's no cork on that bottle. And maybe they changed it to screw top because they had such a bad experience with corks. I don't know. But I thought it was funny that they talked left, right, and sideways about the corks being tainted, and then you find a bottle and it's a screw top. That was too funny to me. Also, being someone who did taste this ice wine, it is quite sweet, 17% residual sugar, which is more than most dessert wines, which usually go up to 15% residual sugar. They tried to pair this with cookies, and I can tell you that it is way too sweet. I wondered what would actually pair well with an ice wine, and it turns out it pairs well with cheesecake, fruit-based desserts, and cheeses because it's so sweet. You don't want to have a really sweet dessert like cookies with an ice wine. So let's talk about the rating. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I thought the exposition in the beginning where they're explaining everything was really natural. Sometimes when I watch these movies, it's like they're beating us over the head with the, let me explain the importance of this gala, or our company's gonna go down, and then the other person's like, oh, I know. But this felt really natural and organic, even how there's a lot of complex stuff going on in the beginning and you really got a sense of the characters right away and what was going on and what had happened in the past, and it was all very natural and fluid, and I loved the writing and was not at all surprised to see, and I'm going to show you the scroll right now, all the titles that just one of the three writers has written just in the past year for Hallmark Channel. And I was just so impressed. I was like, of course this writer did it because she's so good at everything else. I loved the romance, I loved the characters, I loved the plot. I was very invested. I thought it was perfectly done. I loved how wintry it felt. And so I am giving this movie 5 fabulous snowflakes because it was terrific. So last week's movie was The Wedding Mail Part 1, which is technically a Loveuary movie. So I am not going to include this in my ranking. The only other movie The Perfect Pairing is stacked up against is Where Your Heart Belongs, which I have a review here, and I also gave 5 snowflakes to. I do feel though that The Perfect Pairing is superior to Where Your Heart Belongs, although I really enjoyed that movie. So I'm going to say that right now for the New Year New Movies 2022, the #1 movie so far is The Perfect Pairing, and #2 is Where Your Heart Belongs. I'm really looking forward to next week's movie, Don't Forget I Love You. I got goosebumps watching the previews for that, and I can't wait to do a review for that. And then of course there's Butlers in Love, and then that's going to wrap up New Year New Movies before we get into Loveuary. I am going to be reviewing it all. I can't wait to talk to you guys about it. Feel free to leave comments. How would you rank or rate this movie? What did you think of scruffy Brennan Elliott? Or any other comments you have, I'd love to know. Also, feel free to subscribe if this is your thing and you like Hallmark Channel movies as much as I do, just so you don't miss out on any of the fun. So in any case, I hope you're doing well, stay warm and cozy, and I'll see you next time. Bye.